Hey, it's Stephanie with I Need a Reboot, and this is the Daily Word. Today's word is finality, the fact or impression of being an irreversible ending. Finality is synonymous with conclusiveness, decisiveness, definitiveness. It is the abrupt finality of death or the death of something. I chose this word today when I was working on the outline for the identity workshop or the self-identity workshop. And it occurred to me in my own space that I had finally reached finality regarding my old life or my old self, basically my old career. And it was eye-opening because I was actually working on a reboot for work teams, and I was thinking about how to translate the concept of reboot into the corporate space, how to take this individual work and translate the benefits into how it will work for a corporate environment. How will it benefit work teams? How will it benefit leadership? And what came to my mind was the fact that I had been holding on to my own, maybe there was some lack of decision, I should say, about my previous career as a data analyst or a senior analyst. And in recent times, because I had been transitioning between what I've been comfortable with, which is the role of a data analyst for 20 years, and what I have grown into and what I absolutely love, and that is life coaching. And I realized that there was not a clear line drawn of finality. I guess I'd say I had been straddling the fence for a while, in the sense that the role of a data analyst was always available to me. If for some reason things weren't moving fast enough in the entrepreneurial space, I felt like I could always fall back on myself in the role of a data analyst. But in the recent year, I would say in the last 8 months or so, maybe 12 months at this point, that option hasn't actually been on the table. It's been an option in my mind, but in my reality, it truly has not been there. I'm hoping that this makes sense. I have been presented with various opportunities to go back to the analyst role, but truthfully, nothing has panned out. None of those opportunities actually manifested, which is really odd because that's never been an issue. In all of the years that I have performed that type of work, I've never had any challenge with finding an opportunity, securing an opportunity, and going forth and being great as a data analyst. But because in my mind I had decided and declared it was something I no longer wanted to do and I no longer wanted to be, I had actually outgrown that role, that identity for myself, that position that I played in this life experience. I was definitely over it, but it was always on the table because it was my comfort zone. It was something that I know like the back of my hand. I can do it. I can do it well. I enjoy doing it for the simple fact that it's problem solving, and I am an analyst by nature. I love to analyze things. I live to analyze things, or maybe not, but it's just what I do. I do it naturally. I do it all day. I do it every day. But today, it was sort of like that revelation where I realized the final nail had gone in the coffin, Stephanie, on this data analyst bit. You are no longer a data analyst. You are no longer an employee working in a corporate environment as any type of analyst for that matter. And I had to think about that for a moment. The epiphany was that I no longer identify as a data analyst. And that's really important because, as I said earlier, I was working on the outline for Reboot for work teams, and I was working on the self-identity piece. What are the outcomes? What does the participant learn or gain from attending my workshop? And so it was eye-opening and insightful to have that revelation today, but it was also revealing to myself regarding what I need to do in this space of finality regarding my old role or position as a data analyst. And it just let me know that this option was no longer on the table. It was, but it is no more. And I need to hang up my hat on the idea of being a data analyst any longer. So I use the word finality for today's word or term, but it also reminds me of a divorce or separation. But divorce is a bit more final than separation, correct? So when you think about relationships and you're in a relationship that you have outgrown, and the role of a data analyst, I'm going to call it a relationship, a marriage, right? You're married to this role. It's who you are now. You've become one with the role, and you are whatever you call yourself to be. So in that concept, I was a data analyst, but I had outgrown the role. It was no longer serving me. It was no longer making me happy. It was no longer benefiting me, and it started to perhaps steal some of my life force. And that is similar to being in a relationship that you have outgrown, whether it is a good relationship or not. Sometimes it's a relationship that may be physically, mentally, and verbally abusive. That's a really good analogy for this. When one continues to go back to something that is not serving them well, that is not treating them well, or that doesn't love them, or you don't love it's kind of like a relationship that is really no longer good for you. So I thought it was a really good analogy for this idea of finality and divorce. Even though the topic is not truly about divorce from a marital standpoint, I think the analogy is there, and it's pretty strong, because we tend to run back to that thing that is comfortable to us. It is a source of security. It is the parachute. So whether we like it or not, enjoy it or not, or whether it makes us happy or not, we know that that is a source of security that we are very familiar with, and we know what to expect. We understand what's happening. Again, whether we like it or not, we know what to expect from this marriage, from this relationship. So I'm thinking that I learned something today. While I was creating something to teach others, I also, as usual, learned something that I could apply to myself, that I needed to apply to myself. And I thought that was a very valuable lesson. So I wanted to share it with all of you. So think about that word and how it applies to your life right now, finality, whether it is a relationship, a career, or something similar that you need to end, that you know you've needed to end, that has been hindering your progress, that has become a barrier to you stepping into your dream life or your goals, or whatever that thing is that you've been eyeing, that you've been thinking about, that you've been dreaming about, that you have perhaps had some fear around, or a lack of self-confidence around, or some type of hindrance. Think about how this word, finality, plays a role in your current reality. That is all. Thank you for being here with me. Again, this is Stephanie with I Need a Reboot, and stay tuned for the next daily word.